If you're a great storyteller, you can persuade, you can influence, you can get anything that you want, you can charm people, you can woo them, you can be perceived and seen as charismatic. It's limitless what can be achieved when an individual develops the ability to tell a story. You then develop the capacity to take something that's not interesting at all, not important, what would seem as insignificant to most people, yet you can grab their attention. You can hold their attention. And this is something that people miss. Storytelling is so impactful for human beings because when we were in tribes and we were coming up these last thousands or millions of years as human beings, telling stories was the way that we passed down knowledge. So we're especially attuned as human beings to respond to storytelling. Well, how do we know this? Why are we so drawn to people that are great storytellers? Why can we seemingly sit there and listen if someone's a good storyteller and relive what they're describing and retain the information better? And contrast that with traditional school and how we're bored and they put PowerPoint presentations on the board and the monotone voice and their delivery isn't good. This is why people dreaded school. This is why most people never really retain the information. However, even in the school setting, if you were fortunate enough to have a teacher who was a good storyteller or just was a more dynamic speaker in general that was able to hold your attention more, you assimilated that information much better and remembered it and was able to apply it. It was more memorable and you liked that teacher more. This is why we can come across certain people who communicate in an impactful way and have a very short interaction with them, and their seed was planted in our mind for a long time. I've lost count of how many messages I've gotten from you guys. Hey, I met you at this event in 2015, 16, 14, 18, and I still remember that you said blah, 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 blah. So something that I said years ago in a moment, in a blip in this timeline of your life, stuck with you that long. That's the impact of this. Now, let me make a quick point about you and your mindset. Is it safe to assume and say that if you became a better storyteller, that again, the reel going on in your mind, that record being played in your head, how you perceive the world, how you process the world and the experiences, if you were a better storyteller, would your story about yourself and what you're doing in your life, would it not be better? Would you not describe it better? Would you not make it more impactful? Would you not be able to see a different perspective? Because now, again, this is what people forget. They see communication and storytelling as just me to everybody else. How about this? The mind and that self-talk is going 24/7, 365. If you become a better storyteller, you're also going to be much better equipped to tell yourself a better story. The benefits of this continue on and on and on and on. And from my personal experience, my life, the people around me, I can say that if I was to select 5 to 10 things that compose me and my brand and why people are so attracted to my coaching, my channel, my team, my businesses, and everything else, one of those would be this. Yeah, I'm a great communicator. However, I can tell a really good story. And with that comes the ability to teach. Because many of you, if you're in a leadership capacity or aspire to be in a leadership capacity, you have to be very effective at teaching people too. And storytelling is one of the most effective ways when you're great at it to teach people things so that they really understand it and learn it. And being able to simplify things and break something complex down into something simple and deliver it in a way that's palatable to people, understandable, relatable, right? Entertaining, because that's a part of the storytelling aspect too. Remember the 3-prong approach, the 3 pieces, the 3 elements that I taught you guys more than 10 years ago about being effective in social media and as a communicator and all that stuff, especially as a leader and a teacher. You need to educate, inform, and entertain. Educate, inform, and entertain. I would write that as a comment so you remember. Educate, inform, entertain. Inform would be, if I'm going to give a quick description, like a newscaster. Hey, this is the weather for today. We're going to have 75 degrees here and it's going to be cloudy. They're just giving you information. They're informing you. Educate means I teach you something. Many of the videos on my channel, the vast majority, have that theme where whatever the subject matter is, there's bullet points and things and items and nuggets that you can take and apply, and I'm educating you on it based on experience, data, whatever it is. Now, the last key element, and this has a lot to do with your delivery, is entertainment. What people are missing today is they confuse entertainment with the video edits and cuts and jumps and all that bullshit with entertainment. That's not entertainment. That's fake entertainment. Real entertainment is your delivery, making the subject interesting, keeping people hooked with just your words and what you do. Because take a look at this channel. My old channel that exploded before it was censored and all that got to 200,000 subscribers in only a couple years. And that was with no audio equipment, no crazy video equipment, no jump edits, nothing fancy. Just this style of me speaking and people listening. I literally went against every rule that they said to grow. Oh, you need fancy thumbnails and all that bullshit. No. Sure, that stuff matters to a degree, but it's secondary to all this. If you can't communicate and deliver the message and educate, inform, and entertain, well, you're not going to get anywhere. So I know the skill set is going to help this channel, this new channel, grow and explode and exceed beyond the other one. But we have to see this thing for what this is, the effectiveness of the communication and being able to tell a story. If you want to melt away objections and become very skilled at sales in an indirect way that doesn't feel like you're shoving it down people's throats, again, become an effective storyteller. When I tell a story about a situation to handle an objection, and I talk about another client that I work with or this customer or that customer, instead of dealing directly with the customer that I'm dealing with, I'm handling the objection. Why? Because as I'm describing it and telling the story, the individual is picturing themselves in the story. They're reliving it. And because it's their circumstances, they're comparing their mindset, their circumstances, that particular issue with the other person. But they're doing it indirectly because it's not personal. Therefore, it removes a lot of that resistance, and now I will melt away the objection. This is why I said, after you guys establish a basic baseline with objection handling and your ability to deal with objections the traditional way, one of the next steps to bump you up to another level is to have that framework, but now be able to tell stories to illustrate a particular point that then is embedded with all the extra language and all the patterns and all the teachings and techniques. You start stacking these things, now you become extremely effective because the storytelling aspect is more advanced and it's indirect. All the stuff that I teach, especially in my communities and my programs, the storytelling and all that, all the NLP stuff, the hypnotic techniques, all the things that I teach are embedded and taught in a way that's indirect. So nobody knows what I'm doing. This is why I've told people when you come to events that I'm a part of, where I'm with other speakers, and you know there's other speakers there that are like the NLP guy and the hypnosis guy, the clear difference between me and them is I know what they know, but when they do a technique to you on stage that's NLP or hypnosis or whatever, you can tell. Like when trainers will abuse the, hey, do you believe that this works? Say yes. Say yes is a technique from NLP, of course. But people know that you're doing that when you do it in that way. I can implement those same techniques in a way that people aren't even gonna know. And when it's subtle, when it's hidden, when it's subliminal, it's extremely effective. Because the moment somebody catches on to something, that you're doing something to them, or that you're trying to use a technique on them, the critical factor in their mind goes off and you can't influence them anymore. And they think, okay, this person is doing something to me. Now they're on guard mentally. So your ability to communicate with them, influence, persuade goes down drastically. If not, it's almost shut off completely because now they believe in their mind that they're being manipulated. And you don't want that. This is why, again, when you become more nuanced and more advanced in these teachings and you can embed them within what you're doing without people realizing it, you become that more effective of a storyteller and a communicator and as a salesperson. I know I'm cramming a lot into this. However, the storytelling aspect is in it. And really, I'm doing my best to emphasize how effective it is. Same thing that if I come on here and give you a bunch of examples of stories of, examples when I was doing a speech or this and that, you now get lost in that story to illustrate the point. That's really the whole thing. And really for me, there was a lot of moments throughout my career and through my journey through social media and real estate and sales and entrepreneurship where I understood in real time the importance of telling a story. All the messages I've gotten over the years, just from my YouTube videos, when I've talked about depression or the beginning stages, how people would send me these heartfelt personal messages like, man, I went through the exact same thing. Man, that was awesome. It was just me telling a personal anecdote or story that really hit somebody at the deepest levels because of the ability that I had to tell the story and communicate honesty, transparency, authenticity, and all that stuff. Same thing being on stage. Maybe a 20, 30 minute, hour, 2-hour speech that I did left something permanent on somebody that completely changed the course of their life. That's the power of this. How many of you, through one video of mine or one interaction or one something, that sparked a change, a growth, a 180, a moment where you said, that's it, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to implement that? I've gotten millions of messages, well, not millions, but thousands of messages like that too over the years. But that's the power of telling the story. How many of you have come to me and said, man, I've heard this concept a million times, but when you explained it and you told it, suddenly it clicked. Bingo. That's because through the style that I did it, through the way that I told the story or explained the subject, it finally clicked for you. Exactly. That's the power of knowing and understanding these things and being able to deliver it in a way that other people cannot. Yeah, there's a lot of other concepts there, like repetition, sure, okay, exposure, that makes sense too, and that's also true simultaneously. I'll wrap up the video like this because we can go on forever. How many times have you guys been at an event, social event, networking event, where you're connecting with people, and man, it was difficult, right? Like you try to explain something and it didn't feel right, or you were pitching an idea or doing a presentation in school and you couldn't tell the story. You couldn't quite describe it or, reenact it or give it to people in a way that they really connected with. Didn't that piss you off? Where maybe you were excited about something, you described it to somebody and they were like, oh, okay. And you're like, well, maybe it's them, but I could have explained that a lot better. Doesn't that suck when you lose a deal, or just how you feel in general, not being able to describe something to somebody? Doesn't that suck? Well, this will eliminate that forever. That now the same experience that you felt, you can describe that to somebody else and they'll get it at that level. That to me is a skill that will make people millionaires and multimillionaires moving forward, because I've said this many times, we're in the communication era now. We're in a time right now where if you came on the internet and you made a YouTube channel and Instagram and Facebook and all that, and X, whatever the other platforms are, and you were a great dynamic storyteller, that alone can help you build your brand, grow your business, get leads, and all the other stuff that you want. But this is a skill that you're going to have to acquire. And this is why, like, even in my coaching program, I do Toastmasters every Sunday for my people, where we work on our impromptu speaking and our formal speaking skills in a public setting every single week. Because we're now incorporating the public speaking storytelling aspect of it. In the beginning, it's just getting people to shake the nerves and be able to express themselves. Well, after they get that baseline, now it's time to evolve the way that we speak and be able to tell a story, to completely leave people in shock or awe and entertained, because that's the key. And that's the importance of this. So I really recommend that many of you bump up the prioritization of being able to tell a story, because when you can, I'm telling you, people will be eating out of the palm of your hand. I'm blown away by how people respond to me and respect me and admire me, among other things, but mainly this one, communication and being able to tell stories. And just the amount of admiration and respect I get from people is incredible. But I notice that they recognize the importance of that skill and how vital it would be for them to learn it too. Okay, check out that first link that I have in the description, right? It's going to get you guys on the email list and really help you out with a bunch of things in regards to language and sales and communication, as well as my website's there. Browse everything. Make sure you leave a comment for the algorithm. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you. All right, peace.